when I saw you sign Tim Tebow, I said, this has nothing to do with anything, but Urban wants his team to meet this guy. They want him to be a factor on your new team in Jacksonville. If he can play tight end, great. If he can be a backup quarterback, great. But you want your team to meet Urban Meyer. At least that's what I'm telling people. Tell me how far off I am.
Yeah, we have not signed him. There's a thought going around. He was in the best shape of his life, asked to see if he could work out with a couple of our coaches. I wasn't even there. And they came back to me and said, wow, this guy's in incredible shape. And I said, then I went another time and watched him try him out. And they said, go work on these things. He comes back later. They try him out again. I'm not there. And they come in and they said, wow, this guy's ball skills. He's a great athlete. He looks like he's 18 years old, not 20, whatever he is, 33. And I said, guys, you don't understand now. This guy is, he's the most competitive maniac you're ever going to talk to. And let's give it a shot.
And welcome into the Cris Collinsworth podcast, starring Richard Sherman, who is still in the middle of trying to figure out which team he is going to be playing for this year. So we're going to give him a little bit of a break and pick it up a little bit later in the year with him. We've got a great show for you today. Urban Meyer, the new head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, former Ohio State national championship winner, former Florida Gator national championship winner, an amazing path through broadcasting, through coaching to end up now in Jacksonville, his first stint in the National Football League. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I want to thank our sponsors, as always, DraftKings and the DraftKings app, which can allow you to play along at home as gambling is legalized and now becomes a bigger part of everybody's lives. DraftKings certainly does make it so much easier for you. We're going to be talking with Urban today, and remarkable record, really. 187 wins, 32 losses in bowl games, 12-3, national championships in 06, 08, and 2014. One of only 3 head coaches to win national championships at 2 different schools. He is just one of those guys that seems like he puts himself in it until he burns himself out, and then he takes a little break, and then he comes back and wins more championships afterwards. So we'll see what he can pull off now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And without further ado, let's get right to head coach Urban Meyer. All right, joining me on the podcast now is a guy that I've been waiting a long time to pick his brain, to get inside his mind. I feel like I'm connected to Urban Meyer in every way humanly possible. I really do. I'm going to start with the Cincinnati connection. You ended up at the University of Cincinnati. Much of your coaching career has sort of, in one way or another, been related to that, and we'll get into some of that in a minute. But congratulations. I never thought that our paths were going to cross in the National Football League, and there you are with the Jaguar helmet, shoes in the background, and it on your chest. And has it fully sunk in yet that you are a part of the National Football League now?
It has, but I don't think it really will until the fall when we jog on the field for the first time. So we've been really busy. Our owner is fantastic. I couldn't ask more of our staff, our players. Everybody's so interested to talk about free agency and the NFL draft. And I just, every time I do, I go right back to our players, that there is a strong group of players in this organization. We don't play well enough. That's obvious. But so it does feel real, but it won't feel real until next fall.
I don't even really know where to begin, but you've had such an amazing history, and people may not know your complete story, and I'm not sure that I know your complete story, but I sent out a thing on the Twitter the other day about, Jags have a great coach, great quarterback now, and, look out NFL kind of thing. And so, of course, you know how the internet is. I get my head taken off again. It's his first year as a coach. It's his first year as a quarterback. Here we go. And I'm like, yeah, but 3 national championships, 187 and 32 record, bowl games 12-3. that puts you in the category. If that doesn't put you in the category of a great coach, I don't know exactly what does. But this is a grand new adventure for you. But I do want to go back. I want to go back a little bit, and I want to start with how in the world you ever got into all of this stuff. I mean, your first year really as a head coach was at Bowling Green, and you sort of turn around a program. You do it again at Utah. You do it again at Florida, Ohio State. What do you remember about the first time being a head coach at Bowling Green, and how did that happen so quickly?
I was at Notre Dame, and Lou Holtz and Earl Bruce, two of my mentors that I was very close with, just pushed real hard. And I was young. I was 35 years old. And they would, every year, they just push me to say, you know, I was very happy. I don't like moving around. I love Notre Dame. My son was born there, baptized there. And I'd get these offers, and they would keep saying, you know, you need to go coordinate. You need to do this. I said, guys, listen, I'm happy where I'm at. You know, I don't want to be one of those coaches that are moving my family all over the place and get caught in that cycle. And then Lou Holtz in his own way, and same with Coach Bruce, they said, you know, you need to become a head coach now. And I was like, man, like, you get one swing at this. I don't know. And they're saying, oh, next thing I know, Bowling Green's called us and they're going to talk to you about the job. And I'm thinking, my wife wants to go somewhere warm or out west, back where it used to be. And Bowling Green, I remember Bowling Green's not that place. And they were 1-10 or 2-9. And I said, I'm not sure. And they said, well, you're going to interview. And they kind of yelled at me. And so I did. I interviewed and I get the job. And real quick, Chris, so I get the job offer. This is my first interview. And I don't know how it goes. And I get the call a couple days later, and we'd like to fly you and Shelley. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I really got to make a decision here. And I turn it down. And I call Earl Bruce, the former Buckeye coach, and he MFs me as hard. I mean, screams at me on the phone. And I hang up the phone, and Shelley's listening. And I was like, wow. And she goes, my gosh. And then I call Lou Holtz, and I said, Coach, I'm not going to take the job. And he said, why not? And he goes, I don't think Bowling Green's a good job. And I said, I don't think Bowling Green's a good job. And he says, well, of course not. If it was a good job, they wouldn't be calling you. So take the damn job. So I called him up. I looked at Shelley, and I said, I'm taking that job. And then we kind of put a plan together and started winning some games.
I've had similar conversations with Lou Holtz over the years, and I will tell those at our private gathering at a bar sometime, and we can get together. But I love Lou. I love Lou. He and I have had an amazing path. That's a whole other podcast I'll do one day. You go on to Utah after Bowling Green. And so now sort of the path of some of these mobile quarterbacks and Alex Smith and all of that. So now you're coming up with a little bit of an MO of what you believe in, you know, as a coach and what works for you as an offensive coordinator. Take me back to the Alex Smith days and how that sort of maybe led to what became the Tim Tebow days at the University of Florida.
Well, when I was at Bowling Green, I had a decision to make. We were very short on talent. I found out we had more talent than I thought. But the equalizer offense back in the day was something called the wishbone. And that was the military academy still quite use it quite frequently. And that's something that equates talent issues. And I looked at our schedule. We were going to play 3 or 4 major conference schools every year at Bowling Green. They're 1-10 and 2-9, 6 straight losing seasons. How can we go? And I really started studying Bill Snyder was running a little bit single wing read football, they called it. Really wasn't the spread yet. And Dan Mullen and I went on a trip down to Louisville. And a guy named John L. Smith and Scott Linehan was a coordinator. It was the first time I was exposed to this style of offense where, you know, you're spreading the field 53 yards wide and it's horizontal as much as vertical and getting people on. You remember the I formation days or
sure.
You got 18
I was a wishbone
players.
Quarterback when I went to Florida, so I know a little bit about that one too.
So we just came up with something that was called the spread. We studied Rich Rodriguez just starting it. A guy named Kevin Wilson, who was the offense coordinator at Northwestern, was just starting it. Dan Mullen is a brilliant coach. Obviously, he's with the Gators now. And we moved the table out of the way. And for January until March, spring practice for 3 months, our wives weren't there. We were in there from 6 o'clock at night till midnight, drawing plays, stepping through it, just putting together this offense that by the time we get to Utah, it became, it was a chess match. And I had really good coaches on our staff. And quite honestly, the defenses had no idea how to adjust. So the defenses, it's all cyclical. They've gotten much better, obviously, but we were doing things at Utah that really hadn't been done.
It's so interesting now, even in the NFL, that the concept of an unblocked guy at the point of attack. Okay, maybe on the backside in the backside, cornerback, they're always unblocked guys, but there was never a time where you could work it where the unblocked guy was in the direction that you were running the play. And can you remember the first time that you came across a concept that would involve unblocked guys and the quarterbacks reading it and how hard it was? People don't understand. They do it every single day. When I was a wishbone quarterback at Florida one time, I broke my hand because the fullback would not release the ball to me. I mean, I put it in there and I'm riding him and I'm trying to pull it out and he's clamping down on it. And people think this is just automatic, that this is something easy to do. Man, it is hard. And when you first started introducing that and teaching that to quarterbacks, how hard was it?
Well, we studied wishbone football. And wishbone football, if you don't do center quarterback or fullback exchange, tailback exchange with a quarterback every day, you look like a team that's, inadequate. You're non-functional. So we eliminated a lot of the other run game. We would work that at least 10 minutes a day. I had excellent coach in Dan Mullen. So we took the same approach, exactly what you said, Chris. When you watch teams dabble in it, don't dabble. Certainly, I imagine in the NFL, you better not dabble with it. You'll look like an idiot. But same thing in college. When you see these teams that you can tell don't work at it, they get frustrated and they get out of it because the ball's on the ground and you're struggling. So it's if you commit to it, it is a very difficult thing to do.
You move on, and I had the good fortune of watching you guys play at the University of Florida. Of course, I went to Florida. And I'm going to jump right ahead to the Tim Tebow days because those were extraordinary times. I think it was Oklahoma you played in the national championship in Miami, right? And I was there, went down to the game, and to watch what happened in the second half of that game. I've seen teams that just bowed up and fought before. But that one with Percy and Tebow and those guys and the fight that they put in the second half of that game still is one of those games that I can sort of flash back to in my mind and know what's possible of the human spirit, and when I saw you sign Tim Tebow, I said, this has nothing to do with anything, but Urban wants his team to meet this guy. They want him to be a factor on your new team in Jacksonville. If he can play tight end, great. If he can be a backup quarterback, great. But you want your team to meet Urban Meyer. At least that's what I'm telling people. Tell me how far off I am.
Well, we haven't signed
Tim Tebow. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we have not signed Tim. There's a thought going around. He was in the best shape of his life. Asked to see if he could work out with a couple of our coaches. I wasn't even there. And they came back to me and said, wow, this guy's in incredible shape. And I said, then I went another time and watched him try him out. And they said, go work on these things. He comes back later. They try him out again. I'm not there. And they come in and they said, wow, this guy's ball skills. He's a great athlete. He looks like he's 18 years old, not 20, whatever he is, 33. And I said, guys, you don't understand now. This guy is, he's the most competitive maniac you're ever going to talk to. And let's give it a shot. And I have not decided if we're going to do that or not yet. I'm getting close. I got to make a decision here pretty soon. But our focus has been on the draft. But to answer your question, that second half of that game, I had the Pouncey twins, the Marquise and Mike Pouncey up front. I had Lewis Murphy was another guy, and Percy Harvin. I agree with you. I'll never forget that huddle. For the last drive, we're up by 3 points. And you're facing the best offense in the history of college football and Sam Bradford in that group. And I remember putting my arm around those players and pointing the scoreboard with 7 minutes left and said, guys, we take this down the field and score. You're the champions of college football. And I still get emotional thinking about looking, how you've been in those huddles. And as I'm talking to them, their faces are getting closer to mine. And I knew right then, I said, that I don't care who's on that other sideline. Just the guts of that team, what you saw that day, that's exactly what happened. That was one of the most rugged teams in Oklahoma, and they take it 80 yards down the field. And, and jump pass for a touchdown, and it's over. And it was a great win.
Oh my gosh, I still get chills just thinking about it. It was such a special day. You come back now and you come out of this draft and you get a Trevor Lawrence and all of the Alex Smiths and the Tim Tebows of the world combined. When you watch Trevor Lawrence, you go, okay, I can take sort of the best of that one and the best of that one and the best of that one. And this guy is a compilation piece, right? I mean, he really does have a lot of things that you want. But he's also in his first year coming out of college. And he's going to join a new head coach. He's going to join a city that hasn't had overwhelming success. So there's a little bit of this tap the brake stuff going on, right? Like, come on now. How much can you expect? Don't put too much on him. What's your opinion of the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence and ETN and all the things that are coming out? I mean, how soon? Your history tells us it won't be that long.
We've had at least a dozen meetings with our GM as well. And the conversation starts with, how do we make a young quarterback successful? If we're going to invest in this first pick, which we did, which he's the guy we wanted, our owner wanted, I wanted, our GM wanted, all our coaches agreed. How do we make him successful? And you're a football guy. The first thing you do is have some balance in your offense. If you're one-dimensional, if you're in the SEC, you'll get crushed. In the obviously the next level, the NFL, you'll get killed. To just put a young quarterback, and drop back the pass against these athletes in the NFL. So great balance. That's why we have Carlos Hyde. We brought him in to go with James Robinson. We tagged Cam Robinson as our left tackle. We're going to expect our line to play a little better, but have good balance. That means you be able to run the football and play action pass. That's going to be number one. And then surround them with some playmakers. The good thing is, Cris, there are some good playmakers already here. Now, they didn't play necessarily well. I keep saying that, but I love some of these guys. DJ Chark and LaVisca. We brought in Marvin Jones, So make sure there's a ground game. Make sure you're surrounded with ball players that you can get the ball out quickly, and make sure he has success early in his career. And one way is keep him healthy, but the other ways, I think we added some very critical pieces to the puzzle in the last 2 months.
You know, the other part of it is, and something that I believe is that you have to be good at the cornerback position as well. You guys go out and get Shaq Griffin from Seattle. You had draft C.J. Henderson a season ago out of Florida, and you signed Tyson Campbell, a guy who can fly, right? He's one of those 10-3, 10-4, 100-meter kind of guys. So as you look at professional football, and obviously you're putting a little priority on the cornerback position already, is there some glaring difference between what you've studied and what you've done your entire life in the college game, and you go, boy, this is the NFL, I better load up on cornerbacks or pass rushers, or anything that has stuck out to you so far as being that major difference?
Yeah, you're playing Alabama and Clemson every week. You know, in the college level, you know, when you've seen Alabama coming down the pipe, especially with the athletes they had, like this year, we played them when they had Julio Jones. When you play someone like that, it starts with the defense line, and you better, I call the D line, part of the extension of the D line are corners. You know, if your defensive line is playing well, your corners don't have to cover as long. That's obvious. So we spent draft capital on corners, and we spent D line capital on in free agency. And I think we improved both, but they work together. I can't be more excited. Tyson Campbell rolls into more. I've known him since 8th grade, 9th grade. And I love the guy. He played safety in high school. He was a 10, like you said, state champion of Florida in the 100. And we're going to dual teach him right out of the gate, corner and nickel. And if you can do that, you have C.J. Henderson, Shaq, and you have Tyson Campbell, a guy named Trey Herndon. You have 6'1", legitimate 4-3 guys in your coverage positions, which is critical.
It's been so much fun for me to be able to, I don't know, sort of look at your career as a whole. And because I feel like I'm in some ways in parallel paths, you know, in coaching, you've bounced around, you've been in a lot of different things. You've even been in my career path a couple of times. You're very good on television. You do that as well. But you've also had a few starts and stops. I know you well enough to know that you're kind of all in. And being all in is hard. It's hard. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of pressure. You go back to the end of your Florida career, and I really felt for you in many ways, because you were sitting there going, hey, I had to check myself into a hospital. I had some chest pains. I've done some things. Did you have to recalibrate life in some ways? Did you have to recalibrate Urban Meyer as a coach?
I did. I was always had pretty good balance in my life. In Florida, I was gone. I mean, it was after we won, as Mac Brown and I used to say, I got good news and bad news. The good news is you won a national title. Bad news is you won a national title. Everything Mac went through it. Billy Donovan went through it. I found out Joe Madden went through it. It's like people have shared, not publicly probably, but people have shared those thoughts. You wake up in the morning as a national title, and that's the only thing that's acceptable, not from the outside, from inside. And I've never been good at blaming people, or, people have said, you got to, not take everything so hard. And I'm like, okay, explain to me how to do that. I've really struggled with that over their career. So Florida, I got wiped out and stepped away for a while, got rejuvenated. And like you said, self-checked a little bit. Ohio State was great. And 7 years, I found the right guy in Ryan Day. Legacy of, especially at a place like Ohio State, because I'm from Ohio, is important. The program was loaded with great players. Chase Young was coming back, and I found the right coach. And I was going to maybe go another year or two, but I thought, if I lose Ryan Day, then I'm going to have to go on the outside and find a coach. And we found the right coach. He's doing great. And I took some more time off. I really thought I was done. And then this kept pulling at me, this NFL thing, and take one more swing, and this one's going to be at the next level.
We've seen the great Nick Saban, the great Steve Spurrier. There have been a bunch of them that have tried to make the jump. Jimmy Johnson obviously did it successfully with the Dallas Cowboys. When you considered taking on this job, and I know that you were heavily recruited. As somebody who knows how to recruit, you were heavily recruited to come back to Jacksonville. Obviously, the fan base there, a lot of Florida Gator fans right there. They know what you did at the University of Florida. Would you have done this somewhere else? And did you talk to Spurrier, Saban, any of those guys about, because you're going to go down, you're a Hall of Famer in the college game no matter what. This is biting off another big chunk of life, right? This is a different sort of challenge. How have you looked at it?
Well, I look at it a little bit like quarterback in the NFL. I remember when, Alex Smith's a bad quarterback. He can't play in NFL. And I'm like, wait, if Alex Smith can't play in NFL, well, this is when I was at Utah and he left. I thought when I started hearing the narrative about, well, he's a bad quarterback, I'm thinking if he's a bad quarterback, then I'll never, ever coach anything like, because he's the best I've ever been around. And then obviously he gets in the right system. And so when people say like the player is a bad player, I disagree. You're going to hear me say that over and over again, because I don't believe there's bad players. I believe there's bad cultures, bad leadership, and sometimes they get stuck in tough situations. I think the same thing with a coach. You get they say, well, college coaches struggle in the NFL. Well, so do NFL coaches struggle in the NFL. The NFL is really hard. I mean, you go 8-8, that's a heck of a season. So it's much different than college. And I talked to Jimmy Johnson's probably the guy I talked to most. I did talk to Coach Saban. I did talk to Coach Spurrier. But Jimmy Johnson has become, because of Fox, our relationship, a very good friend. And I love his insight. He's one of the most, I never knew this until I really got to know him. And because he kind of took me under his wing at Fox, the guy's brilliant. And the guy is incredible the way he thinks. And so leading up to the draft, I was going to have him come in here, but we had COVID protocol. I was going to have him come in and spend some time with our staff before the draft. That's how much respect I have for him. So, yeah, the college coaches have struggled in the NFL. Certain college players have struggled. I've never been it. You'll never hear me say, well, he's a bad coach, because I don't agree with that. I believe there might be some cultural issues. There might be some other issues that, maybe like, you talk about Nick Saban struggled. Nick Saban, they had some quarterback issues, so to say Nick Saban is a bad coach, would you out of your mind? or is some quarterback's a bad player. No, he's not. It's just you got to really work hard on culture and leadership. I'm doing that as hard as I possibly can.
Yeah, I've heard you say several times when people are interviewing you, I'm learning. I talk to a lot of people. I'm learning what this means. I'm learning salary cap. I'm learning draft. I'm learning free agency. You're a humble guy, and you sort of put that out front and center. And as you look back on whatever it's been now, a couple of months here, does it seem like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I needed to know that. I didn't know how much I had to think about the financial part of this picture. I didn't know how much I had to know about the salary cap of this thing, that it used to just be, I was going to go out and recruit all the best players I could possibly can, but you can't do that in this game, right? I mean, this is a different part of life in the game of football.
Yeah, I went on a 12-month study. I thought last year I got some phone calls and I didn't even pursue them because I was not ready. I was not interested. I started thinking, I'm going to take a 12-month window here. And I called 20 to 25 of my former players, former coaches of mine I spent time with. I actually had an agency come in and spend time with me on the salary cap, roster management. If I was going to do something, and Cris, you know me a little bit, I'm not doing this like going in blindfolded. I'm going to have a very clear picture. I had a couple of teams talk to me. I studied the rosters very closely. I wanted to see the core players that were involved because, I'm not going to do something, say, hey, we're going to put a 4 to 5 year plan together. I'm not doing that. We're going to put a 1 year plan together, a 2 year plan together and try to get this thing going. So I did a lot of homework on this thing. And there has been some moments. The relationship piece was, the free agency got me. I made that public and some people didn't understand that, which once again, I get asked a question, I answer it. And that is, you sign a guy for $30 million and you're not allowed to talk to him. And I'm not sure how that's good business, but once again, that's fine. But the players agree. The players want to talk and how they're going to be used. But you get that 48-hour window to sign a guy to a contract, and we did. And I can't feel better about the guys we signed. And the draft process, because of COVID, was much more different than it's been in the past, where you weren't able to go spend a good 24 hours with a guy in a meeting room and take him to dinner and get to know him. Those are the two areas where just the relationship piece and talent acquisition. But there was a reason, Cris, why I hired the staff I did too. A lot of NFL veteran experience that I really relied on heavily here the last 3 months.
Yeah, the things that I think about you at Florida, and I know you've got to run, so I'm not going to keep you long. I think about speed. I think about just the physical speed, and you already see it in your draft. You see what some of the stuff you were doing, ETN, other guys. But I think about special teams too. And I don't know if you still do it or not, but special teams, you didn't play to tie or even win in special teams. You played to dominate and win championships out of special teams. Where does that come from? And is that still going to be a part of the mix for you at this level?
So when I was getting ready to be a head coach, a guy named Reed, Coach Reed from Montana, I believe his name was. I used to read all kinds of books, and it said, if you block a punt 9 out of 10 times, you'll win that game. And I thought, okay, I'm not very smart here, but no other stat tells you 9 out of 10 times you can win that game. So I became a maniac I went to visit Frank Beamer. I went to visit 4 or 5 NFL coaches about special teams. And then I became a special teams coordinator at Notre Dame. And then when I went to Bowling Green, that was our edge. One year we blocked 9 punts. And then Bowling Green, when I went to Florida, I used to call it the freak show, is you couldn't run. If you weren't sub 4.4, you couldn't be on our punt return team. I had street fights, not really, but I had Joe Hayden, Jeff Demps, Chris Rainey, Deontay Thompson, Percy. All these kids wanted to be on punt block because they knew we were going to go after someone, and teams feared it. So I hired Brian Schneider as a special teams guy. We are going to be I expect us to be, it's going to be hard to be dominant, but I expect we're going to have great players play it. If you're unwilling to play special teams, Jacksonville shouldn't be on your job description, because we're going to be good at special teams.
The last thing I'll ask about is the 17 games. This is, they're adding games on now. It's different. You know, I mean, these guys, that's a lot. That's a lot of football, and staying healthy and having young players. Have you thought about just the longevity of this season and what that means? Not just, you're not going to win them all unless you're Don Shula and have the, whatever. Just how to survive a 17 game season that's likely going to 18 games at some point, and how that might be different.
Yeah, the most games we played was 15 one year at Ohio State when we won the national title, and that seemed like forever. And the wear and tear, plus you have 85 people here, you have 50. So it's something I've given a lot of thought to. Something I'm a rely on experienced staff. I'm very into analytics and sports performance. I'm very involved in that, and our objective is to keep guys as healthy as you can throughout the season. Because obviously, Jacksonville's been. The last 3 years, we've been in the bottom third of the NFL as far as soft tissue injuries, and to me, that's unacceptable. You can't have that. You got to have your best players. You got to take care of them and treat them right and keep them healthy. So, what you just mentioned has occupied a lot of my thought. We're going to have a rookie team show up here tomorrow, getting them out healthy, taking care of them. Yet there's a fine line of getting better, but keeping them healthy, and that's something I've studied very hard.
I have done Sunday Night Football for 11 years now. You want to take a guess how many games I've done in the state of Florida? Now, I've done a couple on Thursday night. In 11 years, how many games have I done in the state of Florida for Sunday Night Football?
I'm scared to ask. Not many.
0. Not one.
That's unbelievable.
That? Miami, Tampa, and Jacksonville, not one. So when you signed with Jacksonville, I said, all right, everybody else going to put pressure on them. Come on, former Florida Gator. It is time to bring Sunday Night Football back to the great state of Florida. I'm just saying.
Well, it's my choice. They didn't ask me, but I'd love to have you here.
Urban, you're fantastic. Thanks for all you did for the University of Florida and for the University of Cincinnati, a former Bearcat, UNI, St. Xavier High School. I feel like I know everything that's going on with you, but proud of you. And I think you're going to be great. I really do. I think you've got it all. And I can't wait to watch you guys play this year.
The only thing you forgot to add, this whole conversation, you didn't mention I was a big fan of yours growing up, and I'm still a big fan today. So thanks, Cris.
Maybe one day. I don't think I'll ever get to play for you, but maybe we can broadcast something together. That's about all I got left.
In. Thanks, Cris.
All right. Well, that was fantastic. Really appreciate Coach Urban Meyer coming on. Of course, I've been a fan. He was a Florida Gator, and Tim Tebow and all that sort of stuff. So it was great for me to spend a little more time with him, just catching up. I remember the first time I ever met him, he was at the University of Florida, invited me in to come see him in his office, got Tim Tebow on the phone, wanted me to be able to meet him at least remotely. And those two were just so dynamic together. So really enjoyed the program today. We'll hope you'll come back and join us again next week right here on the Cris Collinsworth podcast starring Richard Sherman.